right. Welcome back to Just Boxing Live. We got another test run with a full table up here today. So I'm a little bit nervous, but my name is Sean Fitzgerald. I am the host of Just Boxing Live. And with me today, a full table of individuals to talk about their 2019 year-end picks, beginning with my partner in crime. To my left, lead writer for Supreme Boxing, Anthony Stacks Saldana. What's up, Anthony?
Happy New Year, guys. Glad to be back. Another year of Just Boxing, and we got some good guests with us today. So go ahead and do your thing and introduce them.
I'll keep making my way around the table. Of course, you're promoted, I think, to co-host at this one. You and Stacks together from Against the Ropes podcast.
Yes, sir.
Gio Garcia.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be back.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you. And making his debut on Just Boxing Live from Standing 8 podcast, of course, Aaron Soriao.
Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Happy New Year. This is our first show of the new year. I didn't even mention that.
First show of the new
year.
year.
Mention that. And then, of course, the lovely Cynthia Conte.
Hi, guys.
Which is, what don't you do? Right? I mean, you're like a commentator, a host.
Stuff I don't do, which I still
in the boxing world, you do a lot.
She was our MC for the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame and did a great job there.
Aw, thank you.
Yeah,
first year doing that, and hopefully we'll have you back this year.
Hope so, too. It was great.
It was great.
It was fun.
So everybody who's on, I see we're joined by quite a few people. Shout out to Fidel. Fidel, we were just talking about Tap Podcast, man. Shout out to Fidel. You guys let me know because we're experimenting again. Let me know if you see any problems or have any problems with the audio or video quality. We're all here at the table to give our year-end picks. So I guess it's just a matter of talking about where do we start? Where do you guys want to? Does everyone know? Do you guys already know who you have?
It goes,
fighter,
they go back and forth. I mean,
back and forth.
When you start hearing other names, you're like, oh, shoot, I forgot about them. Because there were so many fights this year, it's not normal.
I just think it's all perspective of what us as, boxing analysts actually are looking for in a fighter. I think we should actually start off with Fighter of the Year. Sean, I know that you were bringing up some very good points as far as Fighter of the Years goes, of what people are looking for. Me, for instance, I had a pick for Fighter of the Year, and people weren't real happy with what I picked. My Fighter of the Year was...
I know. I saw Nancy call you out on social media.
Was Emmanuel Navarrete.
I think you're the only one that I've heard.
Yeah. And just for the fact that he stayed busy all year. He won that title from Isaac Dogbo at the beginning of the year. He defended the title against him and then defended his title 3 more times in a span of like 9 months. So he stayed very active. The level of opposition wasn't the highest level of opposition, but anytime you get into that ring, there's a danger there. So he's defending that title and he's fighting, these fights in a very short period of time. He's not giving himself a good chance to recover, so anything could happen. Anything could happen, and just for the fact that he defended his title 4 times, for me, that was my Fighter of the Year, was Emmanuel Navarrete.
But this is the point I was making before we were on the broadcast, because when fighters at this level, at the level of your Canelos and the people who are kind of at the top or upper echelon, we really only have 2 fights a year to make that decision. For most of these guys, right? They're going to fight twice a year, and based off of their opposition in those 2 fights and based off of what they accomplished in those 2 fights, that's what you're making this decision on. So it's really not anything more than those couple fights. So I can understand you're saying Emmanuel Navarrete, despite the fact that, the level of competition is probably perceived to be less than what someone like a Canelo fought. He did fight 4 times,
correct,
right? And so I can kind of understand that argument. But before I kind of get into it, because I think when you evaluate those 2 fights that we're talking about for some other fighters, there are people who might be legitimate candidates for Fighter of the Year that normally aren't part of this conversation. But before I get to those, why don't we go around the table? Gio, I know you recently made a video with your pick, and your pick is, of course...
I think by default, I mean, it's a popular choice, right? Canelo. But I think just nobody else faced the level of opposition that he did. And especially going up to 175. I think I'm not mad at your pick, though.
No.
I'm not mad at, a guy who fought 4 or 5 times, because we do love to see that. Like Sean says, by default, most champions fight twice a year. So I can't be mad at the activity.
And same for me. I can't be mad with somebody picking Canelo, because Canelo, like you said, he did fight a higher level of opposition, but he also became a world champion in the 4th division, which I think there's only a handful of Mexican fighters to ever do that. So he made history. Whether you think he fought the best, 175 light heavyweight in the world or not, Sergey Kovalev was still the champion when he beat him, and he still captured a world title. You know, so, you know, props to Canelo on that. So I can't be mad with somebody picking Canelo either, you know?
Yeah, and he fought 2 champions, which how many people you can name that actually did that this year?
Errol Spence.
Errol Spence.
I mean, Mikey Garcia isn't a champion at welterweight, but he faced someone who's most likely a future Hall of Famer and also an active world champion.
And I'm sure that's a name that people will throw around, right? Because if you see Mikey on that piece of paper, if you see Sean Porter, you're like, well, look at Errol Spence, right? But I think the difference between him and Canelo was that Mikey was 2 weight classes lower than Spence, and Kovalev is 2 weight classes above Canelo.
I agree.
So I think that would be the difference there.
I don't disagree.
To me, like we said on your last show, I don't think he beat Porter, or at least convincingly so.
I thought he beat Porter.
I know you did.
Errol Spence. I thought Errol beat Porter.
Yeah, I thought Errol beat him as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Most people do.
Shout out to Paco Perez. What's up, Paco? Thank you for all the support. What's up, Just Boxing, says Paco. Paco, we're talking about our 2019 Fighter of the Year. We've got Emmanuel Navarrete from Stax, and we have Canelo, of course, from Geo. So we're going to move over to this half of the table, which I will switch to the wrong camera angle. Okay, there we go. I told you.
It's all right. If you don't have problems, then you're doing something wrong.
Mr. Aaron Soriao from the Standing 8.
Soriao from the Standing 8 podcast. Aaron, your thoughts on 2019 Fighter of the Year?
I was actually torn between Canelo and actually Alexander Usyk.
Okay.
But I had to give it to Canelo. For him to go up at first against Rocky Fielding, beating him for the super middleweight, and then coming down to defend his original titles at middleweight against Daniel Jacobs, and then after that going back up another weight class to, of course, take out Sergey Kovalev for the WBO light heavyweight championship. I mean, they were not the best champions at those respective divisions, but the base accomplishments themselves, they're noteworthy. So I have to give him credit for that.
Okay, so echoing those picks, so we have 2 picks for Canelo. Cynthia, your thoughts?
I have 2. This gentleman.
Right
props
here.
to
Look at
Lena,
that.
by the way. This Lena Baker.
This camera
shot
right
this.
here. Shout out to Lena Baker.
Yeah, if you guys
She's in
have
that.
not picked up the Ring, the newest one, pick it up. But she shot that. Amazing.
Lovely shot.
And,
All right.
and real quick before you get into your picks, one thing about Lena Baker, right? She's not a big photographer. She's not working for Top Rank. She's not working for Golden Boy. You know, she got this shot from the top. She was in the auxiliary when she took this shot, you know, and that made a cover of Ring magazine. That's not a lot of people get to do that, you know. She wasn't ringside, so she's shooting from an auxiliary level. And people that are photographers, you guys know, you're either ringside or you're auxiliary. That's it. There's only 2 options. So she's shooting from a faraway lens, and she actually captured the shot. So congratulations to Lena. Great shot. You know, her and Albert Baker under the hand wraps. Make sure to follow them. You know, they're a little mom and pops company, but they put out some of the best quality videos, some of the best little mini documentaries that you can find around here, you know, and they compete with some of the top people like Showtime and HBO. So congratulations to them.
All right. Well, this gentleman, Canelo, for the very reason exactly what Gio said, he did go 2 weight classes up to beat Sergey Kovalev. People said, yeah, he was older, but you know what? He still put one hell of a fight. He was able to knock Kovalev out. We just thought he was going to be able to just outbox him, but he knocked him out. The other one is Naoya Inoue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For the fact that he moved up in weight and he went to the WB Super Series. The fight with Nonito, but even the one that was it Rodriguez, he knocked him out.
Yeah, that was a good fight.
Second round.
Yeah.
It was just easy, but he makes everything so seamless and flawless. But with Nonito, it showed his character. They both had a fight with their heart. He had a fight with a concussed eye or something. I can't even remember that
broken
eye.
orbital.
The broken orbital.
Broken nose too, right?
Yeah, first time he's ever clinched in his life, in his boxing career. So, but those two are my front runners of Fighter of the Year.
Okay, so I want to pose a few names to you guys, and we talked about already. It's just a couple fights that we're talking about that make Fighter of the Year.
Yeah.
Normally 1 or 2 fights. So there's a couple names that I have been left out of most of these, and I kind of want to just air it out and see what your guys' opinion is. So the first one I want to air out is Josh Taylor. Okay, so Josh Taylor began the year 2019 not a world champion. Okay, so his accomplishments were he unified, basically, world titles. He has a unanimous decision win over an undefeated Ivan Brianchik, and another majority decision win over an undefeated Regis Prograis in a fight where he was considered actually the underdog in that fight. I would assume that most of us at the table had picked Regis Prograis to win that fight. So given that he fought 2 undefeated opponents, won 2 world titles unified, including the Muhammad Ali Trophy, because one of those was the final of the World Boxing Super Series, should he have been in the conversation? And mostly it's that I don't even hear his name brought up.
It's because from what it is, he hasn't fought here in America, so a lot of people don't really know him. If you're from UK, obviously you'll know the Tartan Tornado, but if you don't follow him in UK and you haven't seen him here, people won't know him. Even the WB Super Series, people didn't even know who he was. But he's a great fighter. I mean,
and those are 2 great fights.
Yeah, it was
for him, and 2 great accomplishments: winning the title, unifying against 2 undefeated fighters. Yeah. And so it's kind of very different than what Canelo did, but still, I would say very impressive. What do you think?
I agree with that. To answer your question, yes, he should be in the Fighter of the Year candidate. But I do agree with Cynthia as well. Maybe the name is not as sexy as Canelo, right?
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I would agree with that. I think the only problem, like all the names that I heard, I have more arguments for Canelo than the other names I heard. Like, for example, Inoue, that fight against Rodriguez, he was impressive. Against Onito, people are like, maybe he struggled a little bit, right? Concussion, broken nose, the cut, right? I just think Canelo he won his fights convincingly, and I think the knockout kind of solidified that. But yeah, I do agree with Taylor.
But even with Josh Taylor, who had a difficult outing against Regis Prograis, who I would say is the favorite, obviously, in that fight. Yeah. If you look at Canelo's fight, he was actually losing. He was down on the cards at the time he scored that knockout. So that was a difficult outing for Canelo, and he didn't appear to be in trouble at any point, like injured or anything like that.
But he got the knockout.
But he got the knockout. So and Josh Taylor, to his credit, he got the victory in a very difficult fight as well. Your thoughts on Josh Taylor, Aaron? Should he be in that Fighter of the Year conversation?
Not yet. However, I did in my personal recent pound for pound rankings. I ranked him 10, so I give him that credit. But as of now, if he unifies with I think Jose Ramirez, then definitely he should get serious consideration for that award. Should it arise again for him?
Shout out to Paco Perez. Paco's online. He's talking about Manny had a great performance over Thurman.
So this was another one of the candidates that I wanted to discuss.
That was my runner-up, actually.
Here's the thing with Manny and Thurman, and this is just my opinion. Going into this fight, I had Pacquiao win. I had actually picked Pacquiao to win, but there was a reason behind it. The reason was the inactivity of Thurman. I think in 4 years he had only fought 3 times. He was coming off a shoulder surgery. I think that he had already peaked against Danny Garcia, and it wasn't the same Thurman from 2 or 3 years ago because of the injuries or whatnot. I'm not taking anything away from Manny Pacquiao because he still put up a hell of a fight. He beat Thurman. A lot of people didn't pick him to win. Some people had it a 50-50 fight. I honestly thought Pacquiao was going to win, which he did. But
just to throw that in there.
Yeah, but the
books didn't say 50-50 though.
But to be at that age, to be near 40 years old and to still be fighting at this top level of competition when people thought the throne was handed over years ago to people like to Spence and Porter and the names that are in there now, to see Pacquiao go do what he do, it was a great performance from Pacquiao. But just the fact that, to me, what comes into play is Earl's past. The last few years for not Earl, but Thurman's past. The inactivity for Keith Thurman.
Okay, so perhaps not as impressive as some of the accomplishments that you see from the likes of Canelo. Is your point, right?
Correct.
Okay. So that was, and we already talked about Errol Spence. So the people I really wanted to go through: Errol Spence, Josh Taylor, Manny Pacquiao. Those seem like people who, when you evaluate the 2 fights they actually had in the year, each of them had some significant accomplishments in their own respect. Big Sergio Estrada says, agreed 100%. There you go.
Right.
Yeah, Pacquiao was actually my runner-up.
Was he?
Yep.
I can understand that.
He's always in everyone's list. When he fights, he's on everyone's list.
Yep.
And I think with Earl, what threw a lot of people, kind of left a bad taste in their mouth was that whole accident, and him picking up that DUI and whatnot. It kind of just like threw him out of the running for everything this year, and it's sad that happened, that he picked up the DUI. He shouldn't be out there drinking and driving. But it just happens that you're in a sport and you have that limelight on you all the time. So when something like that happens, you're going to leave a bad taste in the public's mouth. Unless you really got some diehard fans that are going to make a million excuses for the man. But, I mean,
real quick,
he kind of shot
People
himself
are
in the foot there.
forgiving. Remember
Yeah.
that. People are forgiving.
That's true.
They are.
A follow-up comment from Rashad Dunn, who says, "Nah, that's an excuse. Stacks Thurman was healthy, bro, and he was. He was very healthy. He was healthy at the time of that fight.
How old is he? 28, 27?
Yeah, he's a young man.
Yeah, he's young.
He's a young man.
Man, he still got him.
He was healthy. He was in shape. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to agree. That's all I'm saying.
He says
Okay.
he won that fight, remember?
Yeah, no. He didn't.
And he wants a rematch.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Man. Okay, so moving on. So that's the Fighter of the Year picks, and we'll move on to Fight of the Year. So there are a number of candidates, I think, for Fight of the Year. A few actually stand out in my mind that I had a very difficult time picking between. So why don't we start? Cynthia, we'll go to you first this time. Fighter of the Year, what are your candidates? What do you think is noteworthy?
Fights.
I'm sorry,
Fights?
fight. Yeah,
Fight.
fight.
Okay, I had to write some down. So I had, obviously, Wilder versus Fury 2. Yeah, that was this year, yeah.
Wait, the first one?
No, the first
two.
one.
Oh.
Two's
no,
February 22nd.
one. I'm sorry.
That
First.
was
Wait.
18, right? That was the end of 18?
Yes.
December
18.
Yeah.
Excuse me, why do I mean, sorry, Ortiz.
Wilder
I was like,
Ortiz 2.
Sorry.
Which happened just a
That
few
was
Yes.
months
for
ago.
me. And then
Okay.
Danny Roman. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I have it on my wrong list.
Danny
That's why.
Roman and
This
TJ
is
Doheny?
Yes, that is I think that was my favorite one this whole year. That's my future of what I want to see. TJ Doheny, I think that was being there. That was Matchroom's first fight here in the U.S. The whole atmosphere was incredible. The entire card. Unfortunately, there was a Dodger game going on, so it didn't get a lot of traction. But the fights alone, that Doheny, Roman, that unification, I could not believe that they went toe to toe like that. I mean, he had like another orbital bone growing from somewhere else, and I think that one really stood out the most to me.
Okay. Aaron?
My fight of the year was Naoya Inoue versus Donaire for the WBSS bantamweight unified.
Did you get up at 4 in the morning to watch the fight?
I watched from my bed, so I had the DAZN year plan, so I was set.
I did too. I set my alarm. Unfortunately, I got up and watched the whole undercard, and I probably could have just got up and watched the main event of that one, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Gio?
All right, for my picks, I think that was my third place, actually. There is another fight that most people aren't talking about, the Golovkin against Derevchenko fight. I thought that one was very exciting. Derevchenko getting knocked down at the beginning of the fight, big cut on his eye. Came back the second half of the fight. I thought he won that fight, but I thought it was a very good fight. I think it was the first time we saw Golovkin really hurt. I thought he was going to get stopped in that fight, but I think in terms of fight of the year, I'm going to go with the mainstream pick again. There was one fight that got the whole sports world talking, and that was obviously Anthony Joshua against Andy Ruiz. I thought that was obviously one of the biggest upsets in boxing history. And like I said, it got everybody talking. It was exciting. It was a heavyweight matchup. It had a knockout. The underdog won, first Mexican heavyweight champion, and that's why I chose that one.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Earl Spence and Sean Porter at the Staples Center. I think that fight right there, being a unification fight, those guys went toe-to-toe. The dog and Sean Porter came out, and he took it to Earl, and Earl gave it right back to him. And if it wasn't for that knockdown, honestly, that fight could have been a draw. Sean got caught, but you know what? He showed the heart of a champion. He was the WBC champ at the time. He lost the title to Spence, but you know what? That fight here in LA, it was live in the Staples Center. It was absolutely electric in there. And both of those guys, because of the magnitude of the fight, because it was a unification fight, unlike something like Inoue Donaire, of course that was a great fight. I'm just looking at the big picture, and I can't argue with the Reese Joshua fight either. Doheny, that also was a unification fight. It's just sad that in boxing, a lot of times the lighter weight divisions don't get the accolades of some of the heavier divisions. Usually it starts at about welterweight and goes up. Those are the fights that get the spotlight. But for me, like I said, it was Sean Porter and Earl Spence.
Before we get to my pick, I'll get a couple of comments in. Christopher Mestes said he set his alarm for 4:45 a.m. Good call, brother, because I was happy I got up to watch that one despite the early hour of the morning. Sergio Big Surge Estrada, he says he picked Sinisa versus Marlon Esparza. That was a great fight, but I also think it was my opinion was it was kind of one-sided. I actually thought Sinisa was running away with that fight. The more that it came in, the further it went along, the more rounds she was picking up. I know the commentators thought that was a close fight. I didn't think it was all that close, personally.
It was an ugly fight.
I mean, why didn't they stop it? That thing.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, Fury they allowed to fight, and you could see the back of his head. But I mean, it was in Vegas too, so I don't know. It was just interesting.
Rashad Dunn, he's on your page, Stacks. He says Porter versus Spence was the fight of the year. I think for me, I'm going to have to go with I'm going to agree with Cynthia on this one. It was Danny Roman and TJ Doheny. It was a unification bout, which means it had significance beyond just being a great fight. And I think that it went a way that no one expected, which was part of the reason that Donaire and Inoue was actually such a good fight, is because most of us, I would say, had picked Inoue to win in something of a landslide type victory. And it didn't turn out to be the case, and that's what made that so appealing. I would say that Danny Roman and TJ Doheny wasn't really expected to be a fight of the year candidate, but it was, and it was so good, and it was right here, which obviously I'm biased towards it taking place here in Los Angeles. So for me, Danny Roman and TJ Doheny was what was up for it.
And a little bit about that fight, man. We had Danny on before he fought, TJ. He was on a few weeks before he fought TJ. And that was his first time fighting in Southern California in over 3 years. He went on the road to win all these championships, these titles. It started off in Atlantic City in an eliminator fight with Adam Lopez. Then he goes over to Japan. He captures the titles. He defends in Japan. He defends in Chicago against Gavin McDonald. And he had never actually fought in Los Angeles. Most of his fights were in Ontario for Thompson Boxing. So he says, I remember growing up in Inglewood, and I remember going to the fights at the Forum, and it was always my dream to fight at the Forum. And for him to fight at the Forum and to give that performance he did was it was spectacular. It was awesome. So I can't argue with that fight either.
It was definitely perhaps my favorite fight, second maybe to Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz, which was a tremendous fight also because of that element of surprise that we were talking about. Mm-hmm. And I would say that for that one, it has to me, that's a candidate for a lot of different things. The fight itself wasn't really all that great. Like it had a really great round in it, and for the most part after that, I mean, Anthony Joshua went down 4 times, and Andy Ruiz kind of ran away with that first fight. That's what made it exciting, is that it was Andy Ruiz running away with it, and not Anthony Joshua running away with it. The fight itself wasn't super back and forth competitive.
I felt the same way about Fury against Wilder, the first one. Right, I thought Fury won most of the rounds, and then those 2 rounds where he got knocked down made the fight what it was. That's
true, right? And I also think that that's another fight that is really memorable because of the way it ended. Not necessarily because there was a lot of back and forth action that was like really. I think Danny Roman and TJ Doheny, the way that we're talking about it, that's just like action. That's like in the vein of your Rios and Alvarado type, or your Vasquez Marquez, where there's just a lot of action, some knockdowns. And the other thing that's important in fights like that to me is both fighters showed that they could actually hurt their opponent and have them kind of reeling, which is a lot of times there's big action fights where, like, and to his credit, I love Leo Santa Cruz. I think he's great. You could watch a lot of times Leo Santa Cruz fights, and there's tons of action, like him and Abner Mares. But throughout the fight, you don't get the feeling that either person is in danger. Yeah, they're not in danger.
They're just throwing punches and punches. That's it.
Exactly. Danny Roman and TJ Doheny at certain points in that fight were both in danger, and so it never got redundant or repetitive round after round. Yeah. So I think for me, that's why I went with Danny Roman, TJ Doheny. But I think all of those fights were great fights. Every one of the fights that we mentioned up here were tremendous, and for various reasons, I could see people picking those types of fights.
And just to add on to what Stack said, I talked to Roman as well before the fight, and I told him, a lot of people are going to go to see Soren Visa against Gallo Estrada, the Zorrita Soto against Jesse Vargas fight. Yeah. I was like, what are you going to do to make sure that, people are going to be happy with your performance and make it the fight of the night? And he just said straight up, like, I know our styles match up. I know it's going to be a great fight. I know we're both going to come to fight. and it's for the title. So that's what he said, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
You know, one fight that we should actually include. It was at the end of the year, the Badu fight. Badu versus
Badu Jack and Jean
yeah.
Pascal.
Oh my God.
That was a good fight.
It's interesting when people say we shouldn't do these awards until the end, but we never had boxing at the end, like literally almost the end of the year.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody about that yesterday. I remember in the last few years past, right? January is usually a slow year. The end of December through Christmas through the end of January is a slow year. This year we have 1 week off, weekend off this weekend, and then every weekend for the next 9 weeks. And that's as far as boxing usually goes out, is 8 to 9 weeks. Every weekend on every major platform, there's going to be some types of fight, whether it's DAZN, ESPN Plus, you know, whatever, Fox. They all have fights coming up for the next 9 weeks, and I'm sure the next 52 weeks is going to be
Lucky
fights
us.
every weekend. Lucky us.
Actually,
us.
I was gonna say for you guys who actually go out
We
to the fights,
cannot be in like 3 different places at one
Exactly.
time.
It's tough.
It's hard.
I remember this year, Supreme Boxing had people in New York, Vegas, and LA at the same time.
Yeah.
Cynthia and I were in Vegas. I believe we had somebody covering in New York for a Golovkin fight, and then there was fights here in LA as well. So it was like 3 different major platforms going at it at once. Top Rank, Golden Boy, and then I think 360 or somebody had a show going on in New York. So it was just wild.
Well, we got it. We wanted more boxing. They gave us more boxing, and
That's
now
right.
All right. So let's get to the next one. I guess we should go to. You guys want to go to knockout? Does everyone have a pick for knockout?
Go knockout.
All right, we'll go knockout. Aaron, I'll start with you, my friend.
This wasn't really hard for me. Knockout for me was Deontay Wilder, round 1 over Brazil. So he just snatched his soul that quick in round 1.
I think even that meme does it justice. Have you guys seen where they like you see Dominic Brazil like getting knocked out of his body?
And
You
like
seen that?
his soul coming out of his body. Yeah.
I don't want to poke fun too much, but that's about what it looked like to me.
Yeah.
But I think that's a great pick. So and it's going to be hard to argue with that because it's Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
It's challenge. I think Gio, you actually had a different, a more interesting take on knockout of the year. So why don't we go to you real quick?
Yeah, so I mentioned some of my favorite knockouts are to the body, right? And I'm a little biased, you know, because Arnold Barboza is a friend of the show. But I picked his fight. I think it was at the end of November against William Silva, the body shot. It was on the undercard of, I think Frampton was on that card.
Yeah, it was
the
Adam
main event?
Lopez against Oscar Valdez.
That undercard.
It was at the Chelsea and the Cosmo.
Yeah, Cosmo. Yeah, so I chose Arnold Barboza with that body shot. You know, he only has 10 knockouts. He has 20-something wins. He only had 9 knockouts before that, right? And he got 3 knockouts this year. Mike Alvarado, the other one here, I think it was Sismondo at the Bank of California, and then this last one against William Silva. But that was my pick. I posted it on our Instagram at Against DA Ropes. See that, like that plug, right?
You worked it in there.
Get that plug in.
But yeah, I just like body shots, and it was a one punch knockout. It was pretty impressive, in my opinion.
We got Rashad Dunn. He says Wilder versus Brazil.
Wilder
easy pick.
Well, you know those are coming, though. You know those knockouts are coming.
Yeah.
And Paco Perez, he says for 2020, any predictions or fights that should happen? We'll get to it. We'll get to it. After this, we could talk about if we have predictions or fights that we want to see in 2020. So
what's your
hold
knockout,
on,
Cynthia?
Paco.
Mine,
Knockout of the year.
You know, I went the route that everyone, you know, I didn't go the heavyweight route because we already know that's coming.
Yeah.
Mine was, there's 2 of them, John Real Casimero versus Tete. That one was so much of an upset of the year.
Yeah.
How Tete went down, he looked like he was paralyzed.
Yeah.
And for Casimero to fight with heart and willingness just to keep going, he was the underdog in this one, and he got the strap. And then the other one, Lopez versus Come. That was my other knockout of the year. Yeah, I mean, I don't even need to say anything else when I say Lopez versus Come. That was unexpected, but the way he finished him off was in extreme fashion, the way Lopez does it.
And again, to kind of Gio's point earlier, that actually has some significance. That's not just like, Dominic Brazil being folded in the first round, right? Teofimo Lopez is coming into his first world championship through that knockout in what is considered and it will prove to be a title eliminator for a chance at an undisputed rivalry with Vasily Lomachenko. So there's a lot on the line for that.
Exactly.
So that knockout is impressive in many ways. So I can actually understand that pick.
Yeah.
Stacks.
The only thing I could say against that one, I think it was a TKO, right?
Yeah, technically.
Stoppage, so.
But I mean, come on.
Yeah,
He should have been out in the first.
we're
He should have been out in the
splitting
first
Yeah, he was
knockdown.
done.
We're splitting hairs a little bit. I think I'll call it a knockout for
I'll
the
call it
sake
a
of this.
knockout.
Yeah.
For me, the knockouts, there's two that I picked, and it's not because of the significance of the knockout, but just the brutality of them. The first one was Charlo and Cota, and then the second one was Chisora knocking out. I forget his.
No, not Price.
Spilka. I can't pronounce his last name.
That was pretty
It's
good.
The SZPLICK. Spilka.
He knows how to
Chisora. I know how to
spell
spell it, but I can't pronounce it. Yeah, those two knockouts were brutal, and so those two were my picks. I mean, the way Charlo finished him off, I mean, completely knocked him out, completely put him out cold. You know, after Cota had got up. So
I
those are my
quickly want to
picks.
give a shout out to Eddie Rodriguez, who jumped on the chat and commented. Eddie Rodriguez, of course, is a matchmaker in the Southern California area. He's actually nominated as Matchmaker of the Year, I believe, for Supreme Boxing. So you guys can go on that
Congrats.
and vote for Eddie Rodriguez, as well
Nice.
as Charles Bosecker, who's also been a guest on this show. You guys make sure to get your votes in. Eddie's comment was about the club show level too. So I do have a pick for Knockout of the Year, but in terms of club show level, there's a couple people who I want to give honorable mentions to. So Richard Brewert Jr.
Yeah.
You already know what I'm
Yeah,
talking
I know
about, right?
Brewert, yeah.
Brewert on a Thompson boxing card, I think back in February, had an absolutely devastating knockout.
I remember this.
Yeah,
I was,
it was
I couldn't
absolutely
believe that.
devastating knockout. And so I'm going to give a shout out to Richard Brewert Jr. For that knockout. And then Roman Puga, who Eddie Rodriguez.
man.
Eddie
First
Rodriguez,
round,
if you are
20
still
seconds.
on, that knockout by Roman Puga, 20 seconds into the first round is
Wow.
the variety. It was scary.
Dude,
It was scary.
Puga's hands were shaking when he was on the ground, like he was still boxing.
Oh
I mean,
my God.
Roman Puga.
Oh.
Did he get caught in the with the body shot?
It was,
or in the,
it was one
in the face?
one gentleman making his professional debut,
Puga.
Puga, who was had a background in MMA, and another gentleman who had had a couple professional fights as a boxer, also with a background in MMA. So
I think
it's
his name
kinda-
was Philip Schwartz.
Philip Schwartz.
Yeah.
Yeah. Philip Schwartz also has a background in MMA. Couple MMA guys going at it in a boxing ring. And oh my goodness, Philip Schwartz, unfortunately, that gentleman caught a couple shots just a few 20 seconds into the fight, and it's one of those knockouts where he was out when the first one hit. And then as he's like collapsing in on himself, Roman Puga was able to put together a combination and landed a few more.
Yeah.
Very dangerous type knockout. So if we're just going pure like brutality, if we're not talking about meaning or significance or anything like that, if we're just
Yeah.
talking about the brutality of a knockout, that is one that I want to give credit to, and also to Eddie Rodriguez, who mentioned the club level shows, because those have great knockouts.
Yeah.
Beyond that, of course, I have to pick, Dominic Breazeale. We're talking about someone who is Deontay Wilder, obviously, in terms of punching power. He's on a level that is unreasonable.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's just unreasonable, almost, is a way to put it, for a man of his size. He's not especially large for a heavyweight. I mean, you see him the first fight against Ortiz, I think he weighed in at 212.
Yeah.
Yep.
217 the fight after that, and he is absolutely devastating people who are just 40 pounds his senior. And you look at the fight with Dominic Breazeale, and it looked as if like a pancake collapsed when they put, you know what I mean, when they explode a building and it just collapses in on itself. That is what it looked like to me. So I have no way of picking something other than that. So
Got a
that
pretty-
is my pick for knockout of the year.
Pretty good studio audience in
I
here
know.
today. We got
Studio audience.
Nancy
I know.
Rodriguez
I
from
should
the
have put
WBC.
I should have put another camera out there.
know.
Right? Got Marty Cornejo, the former WBC middleweight champion of the world, in the house as well. So nice little
Absolutely.
studio
Shout
audience
out to
here
you
today.
guys. I should have thrown one a camera on that side.
Right?
You know?
Exactly.
We will get
People
more
don't want to
views.
look at me.
We'll get more
No.
views for sure.
Yeah,
You know
for sure. You put Cynthia, Marty, and Nancy on the camera.
Nobody's trying
We're
to
gonna
look
get like
at,
1,000 views, bro.
I
Come
know.
on.
Nobody's trying to look at me in stacks for sure.
Hey, we're giving up our chairs like the last 10 minutes, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So that was we got through fighter, we got through fight, we got through knockout. Before I say round of the year, does anyone not have round 3? Anthony Joshua and right? That's
Yeah,
the round.
that's
Does
exactly-
somebody pick a different round? No, everybody
No.
picked the same round,
I
right?
think I think we're
Can't
good
think
with
of
round
one.
of the year. Yeah.
I think even if you asked a casual fan that didn't even know boxing, they would say the same thing. So Excellent.
Paco Perez, shout out. He says in October at Thompson Promotions, Stax and I witnessed the B fight knocked out the A fighter, and he doesn't remember the names. That happens sometimes at the club shows.
That was Amir Khan, but it's
Amir Khan?
It's not the Amir Khan.
Was he the B side or the A side?
No, it was a B side fighter. He's one of Cesar Garcia's fighters, and he knocked out a kid from Redlands that was undefeated, Anthony Sanchez, and he got dropped by a B side fighter. So yeah, that was a pretty devastating knockout.
Okay. So that's another good knockout. In terms of round, it sounds like we're all on the same page. Andy Ruiz, Anthony Joshua, round 3. Both fighters go down. One of the biggest shocks that we could imagine, just the knockdown. One thing I will say about that is if that fight had ended with Andy Ruiz Jr. being knocked out sometime in the 6th or 7th round and he had just scored the knockdown, it still would have been amazing, and everybody would have been overjoyed with it. So keep that in mind when we get to later and we talk about some of the disappointments that occurred this year. Okay, so aside from that, Trainer.
Move on. Trainer.
Stax, you want to go first with Trainer?
Oh, man. You're going to put me on the...
Yeah.
You're going to put me on this right here. Trainer of the year. It's tough, man. There's a lot of good trainers out there. I think I'm going to go with Robert Garcia.
Okay.
Just because of the fact that right now he has Virgil Ortiz peaking. He has Jose Ramirez peaking.
Yeah.
He always has Mikey there. He's got a good stable of fighters out there in Riverside. So I'm gonna go with Robert Garcia as my trainer of the year.
Okay. Gio, I saw your trainer of the year. You want to give it up for him?
Yeah, I feel like the fighter of the year and trainer of the year kind of go hand in hand to me. So I'm gonna go with Eddie Reynoso, but I also like the work he did with Ryan Garcia and with Oscar Valdez as well. But I mean, I'm not arguing too much with your picks, honestly, Robert. I mean, he's always gonna be in there.
Do you guys feel like anyone really one thing I'm curious about this category, did someone really differentiate themselves, or are we kind of splitting hairs at
Not
this
this
point?
year. I don't think this year.
Do you feel like
No,
Cynthia?
I think my trainer of the year was Eddie Reynoso. Because he's had Canelo for so long and how he's been able to develop him since he was a kid and how he's still able to go up 2 weight classes and knock people out the way he did. For me, that is why. And then what he's doing with Ryan Garcia and then taking on Valdez, seeing if he can fight differently after his
one thing about Eddie, right, and seeing Canelo switch up, it started happening in that second Golovkin fight. And then you've seen it in Jacobs, and then you've seen it in the Kovalov fight where Canelo boxed. He used defense. He did what the same fans criticized Anthony Joshua for doing in the second Reese fight is the same thing Canelo did when he fought Jacobs and when he fought Kovalov. He boxed, he used defense, he used head, except he went in for the kill, and which Joshua really never wanted to engage with Reese that second fight.
Not even the last 10 seconds.
Yeah, right. Not even the last.
I mentioned that. Yeah.
Right.
So disciplined.
He has adjusted Canelo's style.
Yeah.
So Canelo, he's making fighters adapt to him because they don't know what's coming. Is he coming straight to the body, ready to take you out, or is he going to sit back and box and use his defense? Even though he still seems a little bit flat-footed to me. I mean, his defense, his head movement is
so good.
It's impeccable.
He's learning I just saw him training as southpaw, because maybe he might be fighting BJ Saunders. We don't know.
Oh, I have news on that too. But
Are you gonna drop that?
Maybe,
Come on.
maybe. But yeah, I think there's a first year where people are actually considering Eddie Reynoso and Chepo Reynoso elite trainers.
Yeah.
Beforehand, they got all the criticism. Why is Canelo with them still? Why are they in his corner still? And loyalty can only go so far.
And they just picked up this kid, the one that took the title from
Cesar Martinez.
Martinez.
Oh my god,
Dude.
so good.
Yes.
That I liked him. He's
and then
he's the one that WBC. Is that the one he won the WBC belt? Was it?
Yeah, Cesar Martinez.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like that kid.
he took it from Charlie Edwards, moved up in weight, and you got that vacant title, and he'll be fighting on the DAZN card.
Yeah,
February
that's just
29th
announced,
with Jesse.
He would have beat Charlie Edwards by.
Oh yeah. I'm not even going to comment.
Yeah,
there.
that was
not right now.
I will say, for me, Eddie Reynoso, if Eddie Reynoso is the one who stands out to you, to me it stands out more, not what he's doing for Canelo, but what he's doing for the likes of like Ryan Garcia and some of the others. Like you can see drastic improvements in Ryan's game, and I think it's evident from the moment that you started watching Ryan train with Eddie Reynoso in videos.
Yeah.
There were certain drills and things that Eddie Reynoso would have him running, and he would still look kind of robotic, as if he'd never act, as if he'd used those motions before. So that Eddie's training and Eddie's guidance is kind of
It's more than the Cobra bag?
yeah,
Okay.
right. So I think it's more for like the types of things that Ryan is doing, less for what Canelo is doing, just by virtue of the fact that at this point we know what to expect from Canelo. I thought Canelo would beat Danny Jacobs. I thought Canelo would beat Sergey Kovalev. I would have been surprised if he didn't beat those guys. And I think that so I'm not saying not Eddie Reynoso, but I think less for what he did for Canelo and more what he's doing for some of these younger fighters.
Yeah, but
who are doing.
I think Canelo's always judged with a different eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Even the stuff that he's saying. But I just feel like there was a game plan in each of those fights, right? Even starting with the Golovkin fights, with the Daniel Jacobs fight, Kovalev fight. I think there was a game plan, and they're able to keep Canelo disciplined, right? You mentioned that with Joshua. So I think that's why he's my pick, but...
Yeah, so I totally understand Eddie Reynoso. So, Aaron, we'll go over to you.
Robert Garcia as well. Same reason, because what he's doing with Virgil Ortiz is really special. And Virgil Ortiz has been, fought like 4 times last year?
I think he's 3. I think it might have been 3. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but still,
still looking good
4.
every single time.
Yeah, it was 4.
Yeah.
Huh?
Ramirez, too, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So I totally see that. And Rashad Dunn says we can't tell with Ryan yet because he hasn't fought anyone yet. That last fight was not nobody. So let's be fair. So Ryan has reached that level before and struggled. So you look at, there was a period of time where Ryan kind of hit a level of opposition. I think it was like around Velez and Carlos Morales and these cats where you looked at it and you went, oh, those fights are starting to get more difficult for him. And some of them, Carlos Morales, for instance, the later that fight went on, the worse condition kind of Ryan looked. Mm-hmm. So he's reached that level before, and then he had to reset. So he kind of dropped back down and started fighting opposition who wasn't quite as good as those guys. And now recently he's getting back, particularly with that last performance. He's now kind of back to that level, but he absolutely iced the guy. So it's like,
and I don't think it was an accident.
Seeing him, no. So I'm seeing improvement, and that's kind of what I'm using as a gauge.
And here's the thing: when he fights Fonseca only has 2 losses. I believe one is to Farmer and the other one is to Davis.
Yeah. And so,
correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I think that's it, man.
And the other thing I will say is, again, I'm also basing this on training videos that I've seen of Ryan with Eddie Reynoso, right? So you watch the guys train, and you can kind of see, like, okay, Ryan's doing some things that you can tell are different in his regiment because he's uncomfortable with them or doesn't look good doing them. Yeah. Everybody knows he looks good on the bag, right, on that one bag, because he posts 100,000 videos of him just hitting that bag, right? It's really the other things that I'm talking about. So I'm judging that based on the training videos and based on his last performance. But I agree, he still has certain levels of competition to step into.
Here's the thing, man, with social media, people put what they want you to see. If Ryan's putting the Cobra bag, I'm sure there's a method behind his madness. There's 100 other things that he's doing in camp besides that Cobra bag.
Let's be honest, he's doing it because he looks great on the Cobra bag.
Exactly.
Right?
They're selling one.
If I looked that good on the Cobra bag, every day you guys would see a video of me on the Cobra bag.
No, but
and he has his own brand. They're selling one, actually. So
exactly. So it is what it is, man.
No, but going back to that comment that he's fighting nobody, just because you don't know them doesn't mean they're nobodies. Just to put that out there.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Romero Duno is my point.
What I think
it's not nobody. It's a level of competition that is.
Well, he has to now. I mean, with that new contract that he has, he needs to fight better opposition if he wants to be in contention mode.
Also, going to bat for some of our people chiming in. What I think, is boxing is a sport of casuals, right? We sell the fights to them. So if they're not a name like a Gervonta Davis, a Teofimo Lopez, a Lomachenko to them, that these cats came in at the same time that Ryan did, and they're already at a Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson. All these guys came in around the same time Ryan did, and Ryan's still fighting opposition that's not quite as high as what these other guys are fighting. And I think that's true. I think that's what they're waiting for, is him to actually step up and fight somebody that where a casual would know who they are. You know what I'm saying? Of course, we know who these fighters are because this is what we do. Just boxing. We all sit here, we all study it. You work for Ring, you work for ATR, Standing 8 podcast. We all understand the sport, where some other people just say, hey, man, look at Stevenson already got the title. Devin Haney's already the WBC champ. Teofimo just knocked out Comey. Ryan's fighting who?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I understand.
I think that's where the fans are.
Well,
but
then also, if you said that to Ryan, you'd be like, well, how much are they getting paid? I'm the one that puts butts in the seats. I mean, that's the whole argument against Gervonta Davis right now.
The other thing that I would say is, let's say you're managing Ryan Garcia. You're here at the table. You're managing Ryan Garcia. Does he, can he fox with Teofimo Lopez? Can he fox with Devin Haney right now? Can he, you know what I mean? Do you want to see him in there against Lomachenko? I think probably not. There's still some development that needs to occur. Even understandably, fans may want to see that stuff, but they want to see it because they want to see him get knocked out.
Even with
that's what they want to see.
Well, I want to see them fight because they all came up together. So yeah.
Even with Teofimo, right? I think he's a great fighter. He's got a heavy hand, but to me, if you put him in right now with somebody like Loma, right? Even though all the fans want to see it, to me, it's a lot like the way Fernando Vargas kind of rushed in to fight De La Hoya, or kind of jumped in to fight Trinidad when maybe he should have took a few extra fights before he got to that, try to get into that level. Loma's still, I think, maybe 1 or 2 steps ahead of Teofimo. Of course, I'm not saying Teofimo can't beat him, but
of course. But the problem
he's just on a different level.
The problem is that fight has a shelf life. It has a shelf life for 2 reasons. One, because Loma's not going to be here for very long. Number 1, and number 2, Teofimo cannot make 135 or forever, right? Exactly. So and once he gets out of that and into 140, we're going to be having a different conversation about the weights don't make sense and all this different stuff. He's a young guy; he can still make the weight cut. Lomachenko has already said he has maybe 3 more fights left in him. If you don't make it now, you miss the payday. That's true. Nobody will blame you for losing to Lomachenko. If you're Teofimo Lopez and you go lose to Lomachenko, we'll go, he was the best. He's the best. That happens when you step up and you fight guys like that, right?
That's true.
And if he goes on and still continues to conquer other guys, it'll be like when Canelo lost to Floyd Mayweather, right? He lost to Floyd Mayweather. We still consider him the best right now because that loss, he was able to do something with it. So I think that fight, you can't marinate on that too long. Those guys do have to make that fight sometime, hopefully in April.
It's funny. I spoke to Robert Garcia about that. He and his brother Mikey both advised Teofimo to hold off on that fight. I said, why? It's the fight that fans want. He's like, because once you get into that level of those champions, because there's only so many champions there, you're there. That's why with Virgil Ortiz, he's like, I'm not ready to go fight for world titles just yet because I have so much more to learn. So it was interesting to hear why they say that, and people just like, no, there's a shelf life, but then also once you're there, that's all you're going to have to fight. You can't go backwards.
That's true, but I also think that we don't consider, you look at Teofimo versus Richard Comey or Anthony Crawla or, some of the other guys who are at the top of that 135-pound division who are contenders right now, and we don't feel the same way about him and them as we do about him to Loma. There's a bigger gap between him and Loma and him and everyone else. I think we would expect him to be competitive with everybody else at the.
Well, that fight would be the easiest to make out of all of them if you really think about it.
And I think times have changed too. I mean, because if we look at social media, we look at what the fans want, and the fans always want the best to fight the best. They always do.
Immediately.
Right? Immediately, right? But if you go back and you look at Sugar Ray, you look at the Four Kings, for instance, right? You look at Hagler, Hearns, you look at Sugar Ray Leonard, Duran, some of these fighters. Amongst themselves, they fought 9 times amongst themselves, but they did it in a 12-year span, right? Yeah. So in between those fights, in between the big fights that they all fought, they fought a lot of names that nobody will know right now. If I ask you who Julio Cesar Chavez fought between 85 and 87, you might be able to name 2 fights, but he fought, 40 times against a lot of different oppositions to keep himself busy, where now people jump on social media and they, Teofimo's the best, Loma's make them fight each other. They're the best. They have to fight each other.
We're fans, baby. That's what we want to see.
If not, they're fighting bums.
That's what we want to see.
And you see that with Canelo.
Argument,
that's
right?
why I say that people don't judge him with the same eyes, because as soon as he beats Golovkin, fight somebody better. Or he beats Jacobs.
Nobody better.
Fight somebody better.
Jacobs was a bum.
He beats Kovalev. Fight Beterbiev.
Beterbiev.
It's like. Fight Andy Ruiz next. What's next after that?
Jose Valdez, he says, Ryan Garcia is not ready to fight elite fighters. He needs to keep fighting mid-tier fighters. That's my point. I think if you're part of his management team, and I completely agree with Jose Valdez, if you're part of his management team, you can't just stick him in there with world title holders right now because you feel like other people who are around him matured faster. You have to do the right thing for him. The right thing for him is not to fight those guys.
And not just that, but it's a business, man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Ryan got, 3 million followers now? 3.5 million followers on social media?
Was 4.4?
4.4 million, right? Hey,
wow.
This is money.
Yeah. He has that number down, man.
As
of this morning?
Yeah, he just renegotiated his contract, but you know what, man? This kid was making money on Abercrombie and Fitch and
Yeah.
everything else. You know, why rush him and lose that name, lose that popularity?
And I think people
So
forget
what
that
would people say? It's a business.
that
you know?
part. You know, Bob Arum, probably the greatest promoter of all time. He knows what he's doing. He's not going to throw Teofimo in 2 years ago against Lomachenko. Golden Boy knows what he's doing. He's not. He like Bob Arum helped him become a star. So I'm pretty sure he has a pretty good idea of how to build one.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I think the point I'm trying to make is I understand the business aspect of it, but I also am a fan of the sport. So I want to see all the best people fight, but I understand why they don't. That's kind of what I'm saying.
And they got to sell themselves too. You know,
Exactly.
these kids are selling themselves because somebody's, you know, I got Rashad again commenting, the best fight the best. Those are the fights we need. Yeah, they're the fights that fans want, but check this out. The casuals don't always back it, because when I went to the first, like I've brought this up in the past, the first Kovalov Ward, those were the two pound-for-pound fighters in the world right there. Kovalov and Ward going at each other. Kovalov was undefeated, Ward undefeated, and the T-Mobile Arena was half empty.
Yeah, they
But
don't
people-
always sell necessarily.
They
is
don't
your
always
point.
sell. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
they're not-
there's
like,
more to it.
If you look at Lomachenko and Jorge Linares, to me, that year that fight occurred, you look at it and you're like, this should be one of the biggest fights that's happening this year. It just didn't have that kind of vibe to it. But when you're familiar with the fighters, you're like, man, this should get more play. This should get more action. We should be talking about this, you know?
And, you know, at the end of the day, we got Mayweather-Pacquiao maybe 5 years too late. But at the end of the day, it still broke records.
4.5 million pay-per-views.
They probably quadrupled what they could have made 5 years before, and people still watched it. So I don't mind being patient.
And if they fought again, people would have watched
Yeah, we would watch it.
it, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
They could up the pay-per-view price. I'd still pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
I would still pay for it. Okay, so we got through most. We have a few of these categories left. So prospect of the year. I imagine that a lot of us are on the same page, but I can't guarantee it. Gio, I think you've already gone on record. Virgil Ortiz.
We said his name a couple times already.
Yeah,
Virgil.
exactly. Virgil Ortiz.
Virgil Ortiz.
Virgil, yeah.
Virgil Ortiz.
To me, impressive when he knocked out Herrera.
Herrera,
Nobody was able to do that before him. I thought Herrera probably beat Danny in Puerto Rico, right? Danny Garcia.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's older now, but even then, Ortiz just obliterated him. Like, it was bad.
Absolutely.
It was nasty.
So prospect for you, Aaron.
Actually, me and my podcast team have had an eye on Diego Pacheco for some time now.
I love
So-
Hi, Diego.
So eight-time champion at the amateurs, 8-0, 7 knockouts. So first round knockout, right, in the
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia card.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like we would say
co-main?
the co-main event, and it was
Yeah.
such a good.
There's a reason they put him in that
Uh-huh.
position, right?
I remember.
No, okay, so I can understand. So Diego Pacheco, Stacks, what about you?
Mine's completely different, completely off the wall, man. Mine's Daniel Dubois.
Like Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Daniel Dubois. Oh, yeah, he's a good
Yeah,
heavyweight.
the heavyweight.
Yeah, I
he's
like
a-
him.
And hopefully he'll be fighting Joe Joyce. So
yeah.
I know they went to purse bid, so we're waiting for a. He is the WBC silver champion right now, Dubois. So I got Daniel Dubois, the heavyweight, as my prospect of the year.
Paco Perez says Virgil Ortiz for sure. I agree with Paco. Virgil Ortiz for sure. Rashad Dunn said, man, this is a dope show, boxing talk and football on TV.
Ooh.
I appreciate you watching us while football's on TV.
That's right.
That's
I
what's
know.
up.
If we could compete with football, I'm good, man. I can retire. I can retire.
If people haven't
this is our
shut-
last show.
If they
Thanks,
haven't,
guys.
if they haven't shut
Thank you,
us off
guys.
yet, thank you, man.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you for
appreciate
listening.
you.
We still have a couple guests we're going to get on camera, right?
Yeah.
So
We'll
stay
see.
tuned.
We'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see. All right. So where are we? There was a couple
Prospect.
different ones. We
Yeah.
did prospect. There's a couple different ones I wanted to introduce just to mix it up a little bit. And those are moment of the year and biggest disappointment of the year. Right? Moment is one of these ones where I think there are a lot of good moments. Some stand out more than others. I won't make an assumption on this. So, Cynthia, why don't we start with you? Who had the best moment of 2019?
Andy Ruiz.
Of course, right?
Of course. I mean, I cried during that fight. I mean, I think everyone here in LA cried, and when he jumped up, it was just this joy of the B fighter, the one that looks like not Adonis.
Yeah.
He dropped the Adonis dude 4 times and knocked him out, and he wasn't even supposed to fight him. So that, and then the disappointment, it was Andy. It was like a Rocky story
Andy
all
and Andy.
in one. He won and he lost, and it's the way he won and it's the way he lost.
The two Andys.
It's just like, it's almost like an oxymoron. But he took it all. He took that ballot.
He took
both
it
of
a
them.
moment of the year.
He really
disappointment of
did.
the year.
Winner
Yeah.
and loser.
Yeah.
Aaron, who do you got? Moment of the year, biggest disappointment of the year.
Moment of the year for Andy Ruiz Jr.
Okay,
For the first fight, of course, for the same reasons Cynthia already mentioned. But I want to give a shout out to Jamel Herring, though.
Oh, yes, yes,
absolutely.
At this stage of his career, to finally win a world championship at junior lightweight. So that's pretty moving to me.
Yeah.
So if I remove Andy from the situation, because I imagine that we're just going to go around the table and say Andy.
I would agree with him.
Yeah,
I would agree with Jamel.
I would say that is a very good moment. Do you guys have one? Besides Andy, Gio,
Manny
is
Pacquiao.
there a moment of the year? Manny Pacquiao.
Against Keith Thurman, 40 years old, takes Thurman's belt. Supposed to be in his prime. Damn. Took it. Knocked him down. He knocked him down.
Yeah.
I'm on board with that. Okay, so besides Andy Ruiz Jr., Stax, what is your moment of the year? Because Andy Ruiz, I think, is probably a clear number one in this category.
Yeah, you know what? Andy is the only one who got people to stop talking about his victory. Like from summer to December, everybody was talking about that moment. And then after the second fight, people were just like, oh, I guess the first one was a fluke, or Joshua wasn't ready, But yeah.
Who's your moment of the year? You're just gonna stick with Andy?
Besides Andy, I mean,
both these guys came up with good ones.
When Canelo winning that fourth title.
Okay.
Canelo winning the fourth division, going up to light heavyweight, and capturing that fourth title. Of course, people in the people that know the industry will say, "Oh, it wasn't Better If it wasn't Bivol. He did it against." But so what? Like I said, 10 years down the line, nobody's going to remember that. They're going to remember Canelo for jumping up in weight and winning that title.
And knocking him out. I think that could have been one of the knockouts of the year contender.
So I'll say, besides Andy, which I was actually that night, man, I was stuck in traffic. I don't know what the hell we were doing in downtown LA, right? And we were stuck in traffic. And I'm like, Cynthia, we only have an hour. The fight's going to start. We were watching it on the phone. And we just pulled over right here by the airport. I paid like $200 for a room, right? I got a motel room. And connected my laptop to the TV so we could watch the fight.
That's an expensive motel room.
Yeah, man. Where were we? Like the Marriott or something?
No shout out to them. No.
Nah, but it was that moment, man. When Andy won, it was great. But then when Manny Robles came and when Manny started talking and when he started crying, that was it, man. It just the water faucet turned on. I was like, Cynthia's like, "Are you crying?" I'm like, "No, man. It's the smog."
I think for me it was Logan Paul versus KSI. No, I'm just kidding.
Did you hear that? See you saying that?
Someone blew out my eardrums right now. I just wanted to see how many people would drop off the live chat. Let's see how many people did we lose on the live chat when I said Logan Paul versus? I'm just kidding. It's obviously Andy Ruiz, guys. Don't worry. There's no worries.
It's funny when you say that about Manny. It's when he won, and then at the press conference, post-fight press conference, when he lost. Yeah. Totally two different faces.
Yeah, he just sat there, kind of like.
Actually, another great moment was Adrian Broner's post-fight press conference. That's probably my moment of the year.
Which one?
On God and damn.
On God and damn.
The hood saw him winning though.
I think if the Pacquiao fight, after the Pacquiao fight.
Oh,
when he was crying
after the Pacquiao
on God and them. I beat him.
I beat him. All these Filipino ladies behind me, they're like, "Oh, you're so stupid. You did not win." I mean, they're like 80 years old, and they're like, you know how Manny's mom always does.
You're Filipino, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, you can do that.
So I can understand them. Yeah, I can totally do it. And they're like, "You're so stupid. You're stupid. You didn't even do anything."
Mute your mic if you're not, because.
I could say that, okay?
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah,
he's my people. They're my people.
You're Filipino too, right?
We got two of them. They could do that.
But I think if you want to think of other moments, probably the Teofimo one is pretty big to me.
Teofimo had a really big moment.
Jose Ramirez
really big moment
against Hooker. Was pretty big too.
How about we didn't go around the table with biggest disappointment. So for you, it was Andy and Andy. We got you. Aaron, your biggest disappointment was?
That's pretty easy for me. Chavez Jr. forfeiting too.
So. Oh yeah, that I think does rank. They both rank the same.
Yeah. Chavez Jr. Okay.
If he has a broken nose, is that really disappointing?
Right.
You're a boxer. You're
what about the weight? Even before the broken nose, the fact that he
went up in weight and he still didn't make weight.
Two things. Yeah, two things on that. Like that night, I had read something on Twitter, right, that says, you don't have to live up to your father's name, but don't lift your leg and piss on it, right? Yeah. And then with the nose, like I'm not a fighter. I got Madi sitting over here. most of the people that I've seen in my lifetime that have had a broken nose, their eyes swell up. All the blood rushes to their eyes. They usually get black eyes, right? Even the next day, their eyes swell up from that broken nose. I never seen Chavez with like anything around his eyes or anything.
Stacks is giving his professional medical
I don't
opinion.
know. I don't even know if his damn nose was broken. Because first he said it was his hand.
Yeah.
Maybe he had a good cut, man.
That's right.
What's his name? Who's the one that fought with the against Gervonta?
Gamboa?
Gamboa. We clearly saw that, and he still went all those rounds.
Yeah, and you know what? They confirmed that. They verified that. I went on the show the following Sunday, and we were talking about it, and one of the things I had said is that cannot be the case. There's no way he ruptured his Achilles and proceeded with that. You know, like you watch guys in basketball, football, they rupture their Achilles. They're carried off. They literally bring a cart out there to put you on it and bring it up.
LeBron couldn't even finish the free throws or something.
Exactly. Kobe did when Kobe took a free throw with the torn Achilles, people lost their minds because he made a free throw with the torn Achilles. So I was like, that can't be the case. And then I read that they verified that. Yeah. He actually did it. So shout out to Yuri Orkis Gamboa. That's right. So Gio, did you get biggest disappointment
besides Andy?
Besides Andy. Or you could pick Andy. Whoever you want to pick.
Well, yeah, that's the obvious one.
I don't want to sway your opinion.
I think runner-up would be Chavez, yeah.
That was a good one. That was a good one because it was different, and everybody can immediately goes, that one.
And it occurred just right in time for 2019.
Check it out, man. For me, and I know I'm going to piss a lot of people off, it doesn't even have to do with the fighter. It has to do with matchroom boxing, right?
Oh.
My biggest disappointment is them having that fight in Saudi Arabia. Taking the money and moving it to Saudi Arabia. I know it's about money. I know they got a lot of money to fight over there. Joshua and Reese did, but just the whole political thing that's going on over there.
I don't think anyone's going to want to go.
Right? I mean, it's just they could have made that fight just as big in Vegas, in England, somewhere else. They didn't have to go to that country and do it. And it just felt disappointing, not just as somebody that works in boxing, but as a fan itself. Just the fact that it was there. To me, it should have never been there. You know, that's my biggest disappointment is that fight over there, having that fight in Saudi Arabia. And from what I hear, there may be another fight in Saudi Arabia. Mm-hmm. So
there's a couple things I want to put out there. One thing that we didn't mention in terms of disappointment was Errol Spence. So Errol Spence having gotten into the accident,
but that wasn't boxing. That was his stupidity.
But it is boxing, though, in the sense that
he wasn't in the ring.
He wasn't in the ring, but it's a terrible disappointment.
You know what I was more disappointed in?
Adrian Bronner?
That he got a red carpet treatment in that last. What fight was it?
On the interview? PBC fight?
Yeah,
the
he gets a red carpet treatment after getting a
DUI,
whatever. After what happened, and first interview, he's back. We can't wait to hear what he's gonna say. He's like.
Should have said I'm sorry.
So here's the other thing that I'll say. Besides that one, there is one other thing that ties into Paco Perez earlier. He asked, what do we want to see in 2020? What are the fights what are our predictions? Mm-hmm. In terms of disappointment, I'm disappointed in the ability to see Bud Crawford versus other top welterweights in the division. I'm terribly disappointed that we didn't get to see him fight any of the top welterweights. And if I had one hope for 2020, it's that he fights any one of them. It doesn't matter if it's Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, Errol Spence. And I say this because I believe in him. I believe in Bud Crawford. If you were to ask me who is the number one welterweight in the world right now, who is the best, I would tell you my suspicion is that it's Bud Crawford.
Oh, yeah.
But every year goes by, and I don't get a chance to point to something and say, that's why. I can point to things stylistically, reasons that I think Bud Crawford is the best in the division. But at some point, there kind of has to be a king of the mountain type thing, and he doesn't have to fight them all. I just want one. So that kind of in terms of disappointment, I would like to see a matchup between Bud Crawford and either Sean Porter, Errol Spence, or Danny Garcia. Yeah. And that's what I would like to see.
And we've had this debate before, right, Sean? Many times where people will consider Crawford, well, obviously ESPN, but a lot of people consider Crawford like a top 1 or 2 pound for pound. And for years, he hasn't been fighting anybody near his level, right? Jeff Horn, really?
Jeff Horn, who...
Amir Khan, really?
Jeff Horn had just come off of beating Manny Pacquiao, who went on to beat Keith Thurman and got your moment of the year here.
That's debatable. That's debatable.
It is debatable, but it wasn't like
he hasn't fought
massively
anybody. The top 5 are in PBC, and he hasn't
you
fought
give him credit for Benavidez, though?
Hmm?
When Crawford beat Benavidez?
He's fighting a guy on one leg. It took him, 11 rounds?
Yeah.
You know what?
Benavidez is a good fighter.
Yeah.
You know what
when he has 2 legs.
You know what I want to talk about real quick? And I want to give these two cats a quick break. I want to talk about female boxing.
Yeah.
And I got two people that I want to bring on real quick. I'm gonna have you guys step away for a few minutes. Can we get Madi and Nancy over here?
Come on.
We're gonna talk about female boxing.
Woohoo!
So with us today we have from the WBC Los Angeles office, the PR. We have Miss Nancy Rodriguez, and we have the former WBC middleweight champion of the world, Maricela Cornejo, with us.
Sit.
So we've talked about, you guys have been here, you guys have been listening. We've talked about boxing. But one thing that we haven't got into is female boxing, which is really, it's striving. It's striving. People are seeing it. They're talking about a fight maybe between Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor being the first main event, a boxing main event between females being held at Madison Square Garden. Female fighter of the year for you guys. Let's start with you. Who do you think the female fighter of this year belongs
Besides
to?
yourself. You
Besides
have to
yourself.
exclude yourself from it.
Well, she
and
did
then-
take a fight in 16 hours.
I was gonna say,
Exactly,
you
exactly.
have to exclude
That was
yourself.
my biggest disappointment.
And
No,
it's a world title shot. What can you do? But
well, Clarissa Shields. Who did she fight that was major this year?
She only fought once.
Hammer,
unfortunately.
right?
So you got to
Yeah.
talk right into the mic right there.
Okay.
There you
Yeah.
She.
So
yeah.
she fought Hammer. Who else of the women fought like bigger names?
We were talking about this yesterday, and for me, it's Serrano, only because Katie Taylor. I just
Her
don't
last
feel like
performance.
I just don't feel like she beat Pursoon.
No.
I don't know how you guys feel about
No.
that, but I don't.
I
think
love
she
Katie
will.
Taylor.
Yeah.
I
So
love
sad.
her.
Me
but
too.
that fight was just like,
Me too.
damn, the way going into the ring and the girl just put it all in there, and for her to walk away like that, it was just not right. And I'm sure Katie Taylor felt the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with Serrano.
Yeah, mine is Serrano as well.
Let me ask you guys something, because this actually came up on Aaron's show the other day. They were talking about the greatest woman boxer of all time. And people talk a lot about Clarissa Shields filling that position. Maybe not yet, but in a couple fights from now, or doing things like this. And I feel as though there are a lot of discussions about greatest women boxer of all time, and Amanda Serrano is left out of almost every one of them. When I look at Amanda Serrano's accomplishments and her ability, when you just watch her execute in a fight, she seems to be exceptional. Not just good. She's really good, right? Why is it that Amanda Serrano doesn't get the same kind of credit or visibility as Clarissa Shields? Is it because she's not promoted as well? Because Clarissa Shields, to her credit, she's like headlining on Showtime and doing things like that. Amanda Serrano doesn't get as much TV time. Am I wrong in thinking she belongs as part of that conversation? Is Amanda Serrano not
Amanda
there?
Serrano should be a complete superstar right now. She's up there with Manny Pacquiao as far as division titles. But you got it right on the dot. It's exposure. Who is she signed to in boxing? I know
think
she's
DeBella, right?
Lou is her manager. I think he's a promoter. I believe so. I don't remember. I think so. Yeah.
So it's
I think it's Lou.
That's even horrible of us even questioning who the hell her promoter is. So that's why, like with Clarissa Shields, we know it's freaking
Salida. And Mark
And Mark
Taffet is
Taffet.
behind her.
Yeah.
Which is huge,
Yeah,
having Mark
so
Taffet behind
they're
her.
behind her like the way, and truly they have a different star, that they're handling. It was Ronda Rousey that Dana White made into a star. 'Cause
Yeah.
he grabbed her, and if you believe if you want to create a star, you can create a star, but you need that money and the promotional behind you, and that's what Clarissa has, and it sucks to.
What Clarissa also has is her her gold medals. That's
with
what
that, she even with that, I had more followers than her, and it's stupid. I always said she should be she should be way ahead of me. She's what I like. I never freaking dreamed of becoming a boxer. I just happened to fall into it, and I was an athlete that came into the sport, and I had a vision for what I wanted to do, and I needed a platform, and I said, hey, I'm going to do boxing, and then I fell in love with the sport, and I wanted to, then I totally fell in love with the sport, and I threw my whole life into boxing, but I never had that dream or
to go to the Olympics or anything. Yeah.
No,
Because
or
she
even
started at
become
23.
the greatest boxer of all time. I never had that huge dream. Truly, it was I'm going to use boxing as a platform to create other
avenues.
adventures. Yes, which I have that I'm doing now. But I fell in love with the sport, and then I saw, you know, I was like, I'm able to do this. I'm actually good at this, and I can become better. And I do love the sport. I completely love it. And now my vision completely changed. You know, I never had that desire, which now I had that desire to want a bout and all these other things that come with boxing, and to get the respect with it. But Clarissa Shields was struggling with that in the beginning. She always said, you know, why, or she always questioned why, and I would always question why. Everybody, you know, the elephant in the room, you know, is it the race part, or is it also, you know, Serena Williams is also black, you can say that, but it's different on
You're raising
the
your hand.
vocabulary.
I can switch the camera angle.
Vocabulary way of her speaking, and now she's grown. She's learned how to, you know, maybe I shouldn't hurt my own future, and sometimes you gotta shut up. You gotta shut up.
What was it you wanted to say there?
Yeah, it's really funny because when we first saw her on social media, I'm like, oh my God, just someone take her phone away. It's just like, even Mark, I'm like, stop it. And when I interviewed her when she fought on the last card for HBO, I told her, I go, you know, sometimes you say stupid shit that people take you know, you read it wrong. And she's like, well, you know, I go, you can't fight everyone on Twitter. And she's like, I understand that. But she's like, I'm learning. And it's weird when you actually, I don't know how you guys feel. When I spoke to her in person and interviewed her, she was so she was so well spoken. That was the thing. I'm like, someone must be tweeting for you, because this is not the Clarissa that I'm reading.
And that's
it's
exactly
very
what
strange.
exactly what I was going to say, to piggyback on what Mari was saying, right? You can be a good guy, you can be a bad guy. Like Floyd, for instance, everybody perceives Floyd as this bad guy, right? But Floyd doesn't go onto social media and doesn't fire back at the fans. Floyd doesn't block different media outlets because they say one wrong word or they say something wrong and then get inboxed by Clarissa saying, oh, we're going to block you. We don't like you no more because we're going to block you. Or just sit there and fight with fans. There's other
Stax
ways.
has a history here, just so you know.
There's other ways to do it.
But you know what? What I want to say, Mari, you were in TJ with us at the WBC second annual Women's Convention. You were in the Philippines with us at the WBC Women's Convention. The problem is much deeper than each individual fighter. The fans need to want to see the fights. It's not even the promoters' problem. It's TV chooses, hey, we'll have this card or not. You know, women. At the end of the day, TV is who pays for the fighters. Yeah. So if they're not being if they're, you know, you got to promote yourself in a way, and that's something that I admire Mari for doing, and a few other women that do it, but not enough.
Yeah.
Not enough. And there needs to be more women in the mix at the end of the day. I'm so excited to see the amateurs, and I see you supporting them all the time, and that's so awesome what you did for, you know, giving them all the money and stuff for the Olympic for hopefuls. All those little girls, I'm excited for that generation, because there's a lot of little girls that are going to go into boxing. I hope Heaven just goes pro already.
Yeah, I think she's going to turn pro now.
Yeah.
So
Boxing Meets Beauty jumped on, and they actually they have a comment first for you, Maricela. Shout out to Boxing Meets Beauty, by the way.
Hi.
I follow you guys. Maricela, you are very likable and a great role model. So that was from Boxing Meets Beauty. They also said Amanda's opponents is why people say that. And yes, the business people around her. The only thing I would say about Amanda Serrano is she is fighting world champions. That's how she's obtaining the belts. And do you really feel like Clarissa's opponents are that much better? Like Amanda Serrano in her last fight fought Heather Hardy.
Yeah.
That was a great fight. Is Clarissa really fighting opposition that's that much better than what Amanda is facing? I guess would be my question to you.
And you guys there's so little women in your weight classes division, you guys have to go up or down in weight. So that's also harder. They're a smaller weight class, but for Clarissa, Katie, like all of them, it's all catch weights that you guys have to do.
Yeah, it's crazy because they actually talk about all of these people fighting each other. Like, oh, if she can drop to 147 and she can come up to, you know, when dudes do that, we flip a lid. We're like, Mikey Garcia held a 140-pound belt, and then he went up to 147. We're like, he jumped these crazy weight classes. You know, like women do that stuff all the time.
The big fight this year will be Cecilia Breakus against Katie Taylor.
Is that going to be?
It's going to happen. I mean, it's part of I know it's going to happen.
Okay.
But at what weight? You know,
who's
going to risk their belts?
Exactly.
I mean, Cecilia she's making history. You guys, seriously, if you guys look, she's defended her, what, 22?
20, no, if she
23
25.
times. Who else
Joe
has
Louis,
done that?
Joe Louis, but
You know,
in
But
different
against how
specs.
many, what quality of
It doesn't
opponent?
matter. There's not
No,
enough. There's
but
not
the-
enough
but
fighters,
it's also
Mari.
hard.
Mari, when
does
you
at
go,
the end.
It's
Okay,
also
no,
hard
when
for
you go to
women. You know
Cancun-
that.
Yeah,
Mari,
yes,
when
it
you
is.
go to Cancun, sometimes you don't even know who your opponent is.
No, you don't.
No.
But also, when you get to that level of, I mean, Clarissa's wanting to fight freaking anybody, and I respect that.
Why haven't you and her fought?
I don't know.
Clarissa, there you go.
I don't know.
That would be
No.
that. I think
And-
that would
and
have
I
a lot of
wanted it,
eyes.
and I wanted
right?
that, and I wanted that for a while. Also, I was so like naive in the sport when I first started, because I was like, yeah, let's fight this person, just going in it, and I had just learned what a jab was like 3 years ago, so it was just me of the excitement. But I see all these women who are now getting belts left and right, and I'm like, damn, how did she get this belt? And I'm like, okay, she fought this opponent. Like, I went up with a tough ass opponent with her credibility, of
Franchise,
Olympian, yes.
yeah.
And I wanted to, if I won that bout, I wanted to win knowing I beat somebody, not win it like some of these girls who have these belts and like won it with
Vacant titles.
or no questionable
I mean,
freaking opponents and holding that
I
belt
get what
high.
she's saying, right?
I understand,
If you look at, and I'm just gonna put it out there. If you look at Lulu Hatton, right? She's fighting Lorena Villalobos.
Yeah.
Lorraine.
Lorraine Villalobos.
But that was
He doesn't
That
get
was a
anywhere.
really
I
good
know it
fight.
was a
Yeah.
tough fight,
but
I
Lorraine
think
hasn't had that the opportunity
exactly
to get fights,
right. So and that goes back to what Cynthia was saying. There's not always that level of competition there to make it a big fight. Sometimes, and that. I mean, sometimes it's hard to get big name fights. And that's where it comes back to what Nancy says. You got to sell yourself. And not just with females, even with males. I mean, I remember a few years back, I was telling Nancy about Regis. Check this guy out. It's Regis. He's from Louisiana, whatever. You know what Nancy says? Get him to LA. Get him to the office. Get him to LA. Now he's out here. He's made a name for himself. People know who he is. Maybe some of these fighters got to come out to LA. You came out to LA.
Yeah.
I mean, and look at.
Yeah,
and I'm
you
not
gotta-
saying.
you
And I'm
gotta
not saying you
promote
wouldn't
yourself.
have done as good as you're doing in Washington, but you're
I
here in
moved
LA.
everywhere. I moved
Yeah.
everywhere. I started from here in LA 2 years, Vegas 2 years, Miami. I had a little venture, and then Miami, and then I was out in New York. I was in San Francisco. I was out promoting myself
Yeah.
and getting to know people, and also having people know who I am. It's not who knows you, but or who you know, but who knows you as
Yeah.
well. But no, you have to put out. You have to get a name for yourself. You have to have that credential, at least. If you don't have the fights, or you have to promote yourself, no matter which way it is. Be creative in that. And,
That's what Ryan
And,
Garcia
and,
is
and also,
amazing at it.
also
Value
one
with
big
that.
important, and I talked to you about this. All the main events, the huge male fighters, Deontay Wilder, Mikey Garcia, Jesse, all these big fights. If they, they usually co-promote. You'll see their name, their promotion company somewhere on there. If they would support and say, hey, I want at least one female fight in this card, that would help so much. If Wilder, Errol Spence, all of them would kind of demand it, that would help female boxing a lot.
So somebody demand Madi get on that card for Jesse Garcia or Jesse Vargas and Mikey Garcia,
Yeah.
because we want to see Madi on that card.
I
somebody
think,
make it happen.
I think
Yeah.
it's a perfect card for her to be in,
so
because
do I.
Texas
Yeah.
and
It's a DAZN card.
yeah.
Golden Boy, she's fought on your cards before. It's a big fight. Texas.
I mean, if Averill got on the Miami card, Madi should get on the Texas card.
I believe so. I
Golden
hope so.
Boy's promoting the Texas card.
No
Matchroom.
no,
Matchroom.
Matchroom.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure there's somebody out there for Madi.
Clarissa says she wouldn't be on anybody's undercard unless they're a big name like Wilder. She
Wilder.
said that on Friday on Mike's show or whatever he does on Instagram.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nice.
So
I would like to see a rematch of Sinisa and Marlon. That was a good fight.
Really?
Did you think it was close?
Really?
Did you think the fight was close?
I thought it was a lot closer than what the judges had it. A
Oh,
lot
really?
closer.
See, the commentators thought so too.
Yeah.
The commentary team thought it was a very close fight, and I personally thought that it started close, but I thought the conditioning of Sinisa showed through, and in the long run, the more the rounds
definitely.
went on,
But you
and
got
they
to
were
also
fighting
think
the
of all
3-minute
the
rounds.
blood that Marlon was losing.
She was losing a
throughout
lot
the
of blood.
rounds. I mean,
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's a Nevada, California thing, but I saw they stopped Carlos Morales' fight
For a
with
little
this
cut.
tiny cut, and then
Paper
Marlon's forehead is falling apart, and they keep going,
no,
keep
it was there
going.
in Fantasy
Inconsistent.
Springs against the
Yeah.
Hesta.
I mean, her forehead was practically down here already, and they're like, "You can do it. Keep going."
Look at Texas.
Yeah.
When Michael Dutchover got his fight, he was winning on the cards and got a little cut. They didn't even give the corner a chance to work on it. Oh,
That's one thing. I would like all the commissions to have the same rules. What makes one cut better than the other? The cuts aren't even what's important. Is what the blows you're getting to the head are bigger than the cuts you get.
And replay, by the way,
And
that should be
replay.
one of the rules. Just implement it. What is it? Why do we still hear people go, "Oh, we don't do that here"?
I
We don't
know.
do
We
re-"
replay.
Just look
Yeah.
at it and see if it's a knockdown. How hard is it? Just look at, like, I don't understand. So replay everywhere. So Paco Perez, to answer your question, in 2020, replay in all states. That's one of the things that,
That
I
would
want
be
to see.
instant replay. They did it
Yeah.
in one PBC card last year. That's one of our rules. When for the WBC outside of the U.S., it's mandatory. In all the other countries, it's just here in the U.S. that every commission says, "Oh no, we don't do that here."
Yeah.
Like you said.
Peculiar.
Every other sport
Yeah.
does it. I don't understand why boxing doesn't.
I don't understand it either. And the states that do it have used it on national television effectively, right? And even New York, who doesn't have it, at least their commissioner said, "It's at my discretion. We're going to go to the replay," right? Like, it's like, okay, great, that's fine. Just get the right call. That's all fans
Yeah.
want to
There
see. We want to see the right
There was
call.
a slip that was called the knockdown.
And
the commissioner says, "Well, I don't know. You know what? It's my discretion. Let's go to the replay. Called it a slip. There it is there. I mean, in between rounds, looked at the replay, said, no knockdown, slip.
And that's fine, because as fans, all we want at the end of the day is for people to get the right call. We don't
That'd be
want
fair.
someone to be advantaged unfairly because a slip was ruled a knockdown and
Yeah.
vice versa, right?
So for Ugas
absolutely.
Porter, was it a slip or was it a knockdown?
That was a knockdown. We have a name for that. So in in boxing, when you get hit with a punch and then you slip, we call that a knockdown. It doesn't matter if he slipped or not.
He
because
slipped right in front of my face.
he
I was
did slip.
supervising that fight.
He did slip, but he was also punched. And that's the thing that makes it a knockdown, right? So he was punched, he slipped, and he fell down. And that's, you cannot not rule
Why you
it.
got to ask him that? Because of me,
Yeah.
huh?
No, I'm emotional. I'm emotional about it. You can
you-
watch the replay 100
A lot of
No,
people
she
are
says that
emotional.
because I've told her 100. That was a slip. That was a slip.
It was, no, it was a clear. And the thing that's sad about that is that's an example of something where that actually impacted the outcome of that fight. Had that been
Yes.
ruled a knockdown, your Dennis Ugas would have been the world champion, right?
Yeah.
It was not ruled a knockdown, and Sean Porter retained his title. It's unfortunate.
By the way,
Very
that
unfortunate.
fight, I experienced the first thing ever, which is a haircut on the scale.
Oh, yeah,
really?
Sean Porter's
That was
hair.
crazy.
We
Oh,
had
the
it. That's
haircut.
right.
I
We had the
literally was
cut.
on the phone. Is this legal? What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, chop off his hair.
Yes,
Crazy.
I am very passionate about that. You're starting trouble.
But as far as the females, Mari, going back to that, Mari, Cynthia, you guys have seen the tears of the women when they
yeah.
go up there and talk. Kenya has been interim champion for like 3 years now. She hasn't had her opportunity for a full title. Why? I don't know. I think there has to be, how can I say this without sounding, just has to be taken more seriously.
Yeah.
You know, just like the men.
No, you're,
Paco Perez,
you're right.
he says, replay will work. How about holding the judges more accountable for their scoring? I don't disagree with that. I just don't know exactly what it means.
You know what?
So,
Here's the thing, man. And I've talked to you about this. I've talked to, I've said it a million times, and all three.
And
of you
you'll say it again.
And all three of you guys can attest to this. I'm sure. When you sit ringside, you don't have the luxury of watching replays in 5 different television angles. That referee's in the way. Those ropes are in the ways. You don't see every punch that's connecting. All 3 judges have different angles. They all see a different fight. So it may be a close round, and it just depends on what these judges are looking for.
Yeah.
If they're looking for jabs and punches that are landing, are they looking for the heavier shots that are more effective during a round? It comes down to what the judges are looking for, and it comes down to the angles, because those judges have to score those rounds right then and there. They don't have the chance to go back and look at replay. They don't have 10 different TV angles. They don't have commentators in their ears saying, oh, there was a big left hook. Oh, there was a big right jab. They don't have that. So
the only thing I would say,
it's tough to be a judge. That's all I would say.
It's
So
very tough.
It's hard
very
to
tough.
It's hard
But
to hold them accountable.
But the truth of the matter is, we know that they get it wrong. There are times where we can look at it and we go, that was wrong, right? And everybody who's there knows it, and we know it, and that was wrong. So, I don't want to dismiss too much. It is a difficult task. But the WBC, for instance, one of the things that they did, I think it was for Luke Campbell and Lomachenko, is they did a live audit. So
Yeah.
they had people, I think it was 4 other judges who were watching it on
home.
screens at home and evaluating in real time. And the thing that's great about that is
like
that
that.
they're
Well,
not influenced by,
yeah.
because other audits, they take place after
And
there's
you have
already
to have the
controversy.
commentating off to
Yeah,
do that.
exactly.
You have to have it off.
Commentary off.
Yeah.
But a lot of times audits, they take place afterwards, which you're already kind of influenced by the fact that people think that there's one winner or another. So by doing a live audit, that's a great way to do it, because you get 4 people who are looking at the camera angles and doing all that stuff. That's great. But at the end of the day, we know judges get decisions wrong, man. I don't care that it's hard.
And we're gonna
human.
and we're gonna be including media. If you guys go to Supreme Boxing YouTube channel, there's a video there, and I think you uploaded it on Ring too, because the officials are gonna be evaluated now.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like on a scoring system. Like, hey, this isn't right. Blah, blah. We're even gonna have media be able to score live. I've done it at home. Like what he said, doing it at home, I've judged at home. And this is going to be for all WBC fights.
Question for you. So well, I know you can answer for the WBC, but I don't know about the other sanctioning bodies, organizations. Jack Reese, for instance, he's a California referee, right? But do you guys sanction officials to go at other states if it's a WBC fight, if it's a WBO fight, if it's a WBA fight? And the reason I'm asking is because when Davis fought against Gamboa in Atlanta, they had Jack Reese over there to be the main referee. So does the WBC have certain officials that they will use for certain fights? Say, for instance, there's a fight in Tokyo, but you guys don't want to use that commission from Japan. Do you guys take officials over there, and do you guys take referees to do
any
certain
WBC
fights?
fight around the world? The officials will be WBC officials. They will not be local.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, unless the official is there local.
Unless he's a local WBC official already there. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Well, thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it. Before we let you two go, can you give us your shout outs? Give us where we're supposed to follow you and subscribe and all that kind of stuff.
Tell them your new stuff that you're doing.
You have new stuff?
Talk to us.
Let's go for
Tell
it.
us.
A little tease.
Oh, not yet.
Just a little
Not yet.
tease.
It's not ready yet.
Not yet.
No. It's gonna be cool.
There's
It's
something
gonna be
coming.
cool.
It's going to be cool. Where can
Yeah.
we learn about it? Where should we
Well, subscribe to Roku.
Okay,
Like,
subscribe to Roku.
Get that Roku, because I'll have my full channel on.
And
all
you'll
that.
give
Oh,
updates
okay.
on your Instagram, for instance?
And I will have a time slot on there.
Yes, and then in Vegas also.
Oh, a time slot.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I think you may have said something to me
Yeah,
about
you
it.
want to do it with me?
Sure, I'll do it. I think I know what it is. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
I know what it is. I can't tell you.
This conversation is probably a little weird to the people listening because
Yeah.
we've got no idea what's going on. But
Okay.
Yeah,
but
you
it
can
sounds
follow-
exciting, and I hope to see all 3 of you in it.
You can follow me on Instagram at Maricela Cornejo Boxing, and any other platforms. I'm just too stressed out. There's too many. Yeah, that's one that I'm on the most, and then
Instagram.
yeah, that's what. It's
You need a
called, right?
TikTok.
TikTok.
Everybody's
No.
moving to TikTok.
No more.
The
I
little,
just- no.
Yeah, I could see your little dancing video on TikTok.
Man.
Oh my gosh, people freak out. Okay, here, let me put this. out
Yeah,
there real
explain
quick.
that dancing
No,
video.
let me put this out here really
I got
quick.
so
Okay,
many
just
bad
because-
DMs on mine.
Man, I always get bad DMs. It doesn't. Okay, I see other. Man, my heart's racing. Because this
No,
is
say it,
subject.
say it, say
I
it.
see other women in the sport post
Half-naked pictures.
provocative freaking. Like,
Okay.
I didn't grow up in Mexican culture. Who's Mexican here? All these Mexican. Okay.
Sean.
I'm
It's
Puerto
not
Rican.
normal- It's not normal.
Puerto
for
Rican, not
us
Mexican.
to be in bikinis in front of our family. At least what the family I grew up in. A lot of Mexican families, like you're in your calzones and freaking bra, basically. That's what we see it as, you know. So we'd always be covered up. So it took me a while to become comfortable, and this is me just being comfortable with myself now. And my mom freaked out when she saw it. She totally disowned me for a day or two. And yeah, but I see so many other women in the sport, like completely just, you know, their back is.
Do you want to mention any names?
No, it's a picture of their ass and in a bathing suit, you know, at the thong bathing suit. And I've never posted a picture like that. I think that for me is just, I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But I'm not there yet. And everybody, you know, is like, doesn't say anything negative about that. But you
Ooh,
get
I
a
wanna
freaking
look-
somebody else who has curves and
A side boob.
a side boob, I guess, and it's all
The
of a
red
sudden
bathing
too much.
suit.
Yeah, and
What
then
do
all
the
of a
men
sudden-
think about this? When
No,
So-
but I don't care about that. I'm just trying to
she's,
make
I
a
don't
freaking
care.
point. I'm just trying to make
Yeah.
a point because it just.
Did they
it
shame you
really-
for-
Yeah, when it's just like when you get, and I'm not trying. I'm not racist at all.
I
And
want
I
Just
shouldn't
say it. Just put it.
this
Just
at
put it
all.
out
no,
there.
you say it
But
seriously.
when like you get for instance,
Christina Hammer.
no, or even her, yeah, Christina Hammer, Michaela Mayer, that posts a picture of them, you know, in a bathing suit, it's of the
Yeah.
of their ass basically, and everybody's like, oh, cute, you know, this and that. I post not even anything next or close to that, and it's, oh, that's all she does, or that's all she posts, or this and that, just she's always naked, this, and I go to their pictures, I'm like, oh my God, just because she doesn't have curves and she has a beautiful body, I'm not shaming anybody. I'm pro women, I'm pro
And they're beautiful,
loving yourself,
yeah.
you know, and that's just something that I'm just like, before you do that, just because a woman have fucking, excuse me, freaking curves, can I curse? I'm so
Yeah, that's
I've
fine.
been cursing, don't worry.
just because a woman has curves and the other one may, you know, have a beautiful body, athletic, and doesn't have that much
It's just different.
difference.
It's just
yes.
different.
It doesn't mean one is wrong and one is right. It's just don't.
To
'Cause
answer
that
the question,
gets-
what do men think about it? Rashawn Dunn said
I don't
Mari
do
is a
it for
gangster.
men.
That video was dope.
I can
That's
go-
what it,
No, you
The
know,
lady's beautiful.
You know,
That's what
the
he said.
thing about it is that they don't even get to know their careers or the person. They just want to judge because whatever, you know, they have a mouth and they have
You know-
a keyboard.
Social
and
what's,
media,
hey,
they're-
what's
they're-
funny, right, is one time I got into it with Clarissa on Twitter.
There's a pattern here,
and no,
brother.
no,
Yeah.
wait, no. She had shamed like Christina Hammer. I don't.
Oh,
ha-
yeah,
I don't
about the
have
lingerie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. I don't have to.
Oh,
I don't have to
it's-
sell myself like this. I don't have to sell myself like that. I don't have to get naked to prove anything, right? So I posted the picture of her.
Running on the beach?
No, the picture,
a thong?
the picture of her, the ESPN picture.
Yeah, body issue.
Oh yeah, she took that down real quick. But she did the body issue butt naked, right? But nobody had a
Yeah.
problem with
Oh,
that.
okay.
But
So
the
this-
body issues, that's like
It's a completely
that-
different
that's
one.
a
Yeah,
to-
yeah,
that's,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
an honor.
It-
I
it
get
is.
naked for the body issue
Right?
anytime.
Yeah. But still, but I refrain from all that, truly, and I refrained from all that in the beginning of my boxing. In the beginning of boxing, I was like, I'm not going to do that. You know, I'm going to go into the gym. I'm just going to do what I do, and I'm going to get out of there. I'm not going to post anything like that. I just want people to take me seriously. I got their attention. Once I get your attention, all right, I'm going to, and I showed them me, you know, with my boxing. I got their attention, showed them what I do, but now I'm going to be myself. This is who I am now. But I've always been a woman. I was on America's Next Top Model before I became a boxer, before I want to do all that. That's what I did before. You're shaming me because of what I like to dress up. I like to be a woman.
And you're not
because
the
you
only
don't
one who
like
does
to
it.
do that. I'm not shaming you and just telling you dress better or do makeup. You're beautiful. You're beautiful who you are. Just don't shame other women because they like to be girly, whatever it is, and still be in a damn sport
Look,
where they
yeah.
can get punched and punch people.
Yeah.
That's what pisses me off.
Sule Murbina has done it. Ava Knight has done it, and they're all beautiful. Mari, they're all beautiful. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, they talk crap and then they do it themselves. and
Man,
it's just
Lizzo
like, but I
did it
don't-
at the
I don't-
Laker game.
Yeah.
God, she went to the ultimate. Ultimate.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, even I wouldn't do that, but I still am like, do you? But yeah, no.
But like they say, if they're not talking bad about you, then you're doing something wrong, right? You're gonna have people saying good stuff and bad stuff all the time.
I completely agree with that. I think no matter what you do, if you're putting yourself out there, you're going to find your share of hateful comments and
Oh, yeah.
like and some people more than others, but there's always going to be people who are negative and
Yeah.
saying all the bad things that they can say about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nancy, where can we follow you at? Where can the fans follow you at?
My Instagram is NancyR505. I do want to thank all the fans that participated in the awards. You have no idea how much this meant to everybody that was nominated. I did see a meme from your friend. I'm not even going to mention his name. It's not worth it. We didn't put the nominees out there. The fans nominated.
fan voted.
And and because we only wanted to do 5 or 6.
They had to nominate first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
They threw out your nomination, I noticed.
Yeah, our podcast of the year got thrown out.
because it was
was
only
talking
one,
about
and they had to
Navarrete.
have like
Oh.
a minimum amount. But I did have to shut down the comments because on the ones that I had longer, we don't have the manpower to do it. I saw how big this is, and my vision just got bigger for the awards. The Ring Girls are so grateful. They had never felt like appreciated. We got some really nice messages from them and everyone. So I want to thank the fans, and depending on if we can get a little venue February 21st for Wilder Fury 2, we will announce the winners then. If I can't
Ooh.
close that deal, then we will announce at the end of this week But we honestly still have 2 awards to push out there, which is humanitarian and the YouTube channel of the year.
Oh, I can still vote.
Is
then.
just
Okay.
boxing part of it? Are they in the nominees? I don't remember.
No, definitely
We
not.
can be nominated. That's fine.
Yeah, but I do want to say thank you. There was categories that had thousands of comments, and my daughter is really mad at me because she has to count them all.
Oh, that
Wow.
She's tallying
the ring
the-
girl,
Yeah.
the ring
Oh,
girl
wow.
blew up. The photographer blew up. I mean, all of them. They participated. The
And
manager.
they're very
Yeah.
grateful because in this industry, a lot of people, like what Sean does. Sean gives so much of his time to boxing. You have a job, a regular job. This is just something you
I
love
do,
to do.
yeah. I have a full-time job.
You too. Like we give so much. It feels nice to be appreciated, and if Supreme Boxing can be a platform to honor these people, why not? Why not? And let the fans vote, not us.
Oh, good. I have to see the nominees. I've seen them, and then I haven't voted yet.
You didn't vote, and now you can't vote for.
I'll just tell you verbally.
Okay, you can DM us.
There you
We'll
go.
count your vote.
And
Okay.
speaking of that, actually, speaking of nominations, I want to give a shout out real quick to Xavier Orozco. It's his birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Xavier.
Very
Xavier.
knowledgeable.
Yeah,
Yes.
very, very knowledgeable guy. Xavier took the title of 2019 podcast host of the year Podium Sports Award, which I was also up for, and he won, but I'm not too mad at you. So happy birthday, brother.
Yeah. Cynthia, where
Yeah.
can we follow you at?
Instagram at The Real Fight Girl, and my YouTube channel, The Real Fight with Cynthia Conte, and also my other interviews on RingTV.
And she is the
Jesus.
WBC influencer too, which you forgot to mention.
I
We're gonna
am.
bring 2 more people
Yeah.
real quick back in
Can
here.
I get you guys back in here? I got to give
Just for a quick, no, they just grabbed the mic real quick. Gio, let us know where we can follow you at.
Yeah, you guys can follow us at Against DA Ropes on all your favorite social network platforms. Against the Ropes podcast on YouTube. Thank you guys for having us.
And Aaron,
The Standing A podcast. We're on Facebook, Instagram. Also, our podcast could be found on Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts.
Very cool.
all right. And
Stacks.
for me, you can follow us at Supreme Boxing Inc. on the website and on all social media platforms, Supreme Boxing. Also, you can follow the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame. We have the new interactive museum that's been open less than a year inside of the Maryland Parkway Mall. Last year, for instance, Cynthia was our MC. She was one of the MCs for the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame for the induction. This year, we got big things. The second week of February, we're going to be announcing the inductees for the 2020 class.
Ooh.
And between February 4th and the night of the Wilder Fury fight, the rematch, there's going to be special things going on at the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame. Rich Murata will be there to curate. If you want to go through, check out the museum, you guys are more than welcome to go ahead and take a look at that. Rich will be there to walk you through and
So
show you
cool.
everything. It is a great museum. If you guys have never been there, try to get out there to Vegas. If you're out there for the fight, I know there's going to be a lot of fans coming in from the UK. Make sure to stop by there. We had a whole boxing club that came in from London last year, and we had about 45 kids that showed up when Mikey Garcia was there. There's always people walking in. There's always special guests. You never know who's going to be there. Joe Cortez is a regular there, so make sure to stop by the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame Museum. And another big shout out to the Ring Magazine cover.
Yay, Lena Baker.
To Lena Baker. There you go, Lena. Congratulations on making that cover, Lena.
I know.
One of the main reasons I think she got nominated. Actually, she's in the top 2.
Ooh, this is a great picture.
It's between her and Stephanie Trapp.
All right.
All right.
And Just Boxing.
Go ahead, Gio. What's
If I
up?
can add one more thing, we did have an interview today via phone with Tinin Rodriguez. He's the man who's been training with Sergio Martinez.
Oh.
They're saying he's going to make a comeback.
Sexy Sergio? I told you.
They gave me some names.
Sexy
You guys
Sergio,
stay tuned
stay
to the
on-
show
stay.
to find out, because I'm not going to say it on here. But
So
yeah,
he
thank
is
you
really
guys.
coming back.
If he comes back, he won't be nominated anymore for the Nevada.
Oh,
We'll see.
sexy Sergio, stay. Stay.
Man,
Oh, yeah, you
I
can
need-
come here. Hey.
I need to work out more.
You go ride
Yeah.
a bike like him.
I
man.
need to hit the exercise bike a little bit more. All right. Which camera am I in? I'm in this one. Okay. So, of course, you can follow me at Just Boxing Live on Instagram, at Just Boxing Live on Facebook, and Just Boxing on YouTube. We're almost at 30,000 subscribers, so follow me, hit the subscribe button, and rewatch this video when I post it later tonight. But this will be on on all of the podcast platforms. You can find
Spotify,
me on
Stitcher,
Spotify, Stitcher,
Apple Music,
TuneIn,
iTunes.
yeah, we'll just name random ones because I'm on all of them.
Yeah.
So we'll figure it out. But that's what's up. Thank you guys, and thanks to this beautiful crowd for being here to do our year-end awards. You guys were wonderful. This is honestly some of the most fun that I've ever had doing an episode of Just Boxing Live, and it comes on a day where I was really stressing out about this because this is an entirely new setup for us. And the first time I tried something like this, you probably remember it didn't go so great. So
It's all right.
yeah, but it worked. It worked today.
You're like, it wasn't plugged.
Nancy was one of
today.
the first guests, right?
Nancy was one of the first guests
very
when,
first guest, yeah.
man, we used to sit in that corner over there at a cocktail table. There's a cocktail table over there. That's what we sat at. So this is kind of evolved since then. And so thank you very much. And thank you guys for all of the participation. I'm not going to be able to get all of you, but Jose Valdez, Rashad Dunn, Boxing Meets Beauty, Paco Perez, who is always so supportive. Shout out to Paco Perez and everybody who jumped on the chat today. I appreciate all of you. We're kicking off the new year in style. Oh, WBC for showing the stream.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I appreciate all of you. And hopefully we'll have another great year. We'll be back on the 18th. I'm out next week before a brief hiatus. And that's all I got for you today. So see you next week. Or sorry, the 18th. I won't see you next week. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.